Hello everyone, welcome to Kalam's answer writing program. I hope you all are doing well. I hope you all are enjoying this week of polity, and I most certainly believe that you are trying to write some answers or the other in relation to mains. अब देखो, there is a way to strategize your preparation during this 4 months extra period that you have gotten. And it's no longer 4 months. You just have July, August and September. The last 1.5 month will certainly go into your prelims preparation. So the remaining 1.5 month, what are you supposed to do? Just because Kalam's answer writing program is running, I don't want to force you to do your mains preparation right now if your optional is not completed. In fact, if your optional is not completed, you most certainly have to spend your time on optional, and you probably just watch the Kalam video and don't write anything. Just get a sense of how answer writing is done. But लेकिन वीडियो तो देखो, ठीक है? But let's move forward. So let's look at today's question. The role of individual MPs has diminished over the years, and as a result, healthy constructive debates on policy issues are not usually witnessed. How far can this be attributed to the anti-defection law, which was legislated but with a different intention? So I certainly see a lot of sub-themes and sub-parts in this particular question, and I will identify them for you. So prima facie, I clearly see that this is a question on anti-defection. अब इतना तो fixed है कि I have to talk about anti-defection law. So my introduction is most certainly set, because I can have a hardcore fact-based introduction in which I talk about anti-defection law, 52nd constitutional amendment, 10th schedule. These three things can be directly put in my first 2 or 3 lines. That is going to be a solid introduction that has been sorted. That is one way to do it. Or I can also talk about the recent examples of how the anti-defection law is being misused across the country. And that would be a current affairs approach to starting your answer. So now that the introduction is sorted, now let's get into the meat of the matter. What are the different subheadings that I can have? Look at the question. The question says that the role of individual MPs has diminished over the years, and the healthy constructive debates have come down. And is this because of anti-defection law? How much of this decreasing constructive debates is attributed to anti-defection law is what this question is asking us. So in a sense, what you can write by being smart is that there are several other reasons also why the individual MP's enthusiasm has decreased in the parliament, why the MPs are not performing well in participating in constructive debates, and so on. I'll explain. So firstly, we'll start out by talking about anti-defection law in our introduction. And then maybe this is the opportunity for us to get creative, draw a small hub and spoke diagram in which we talk about the criteria of disqualification of anti-defection law, right? And that would be a good way to portray your creativity to the examiner. Now moving forward, we will have a subheading on how anti-defection law has led to a decline in the constructive debates in the parliament, because that is what the question has asked. Next comes the important part. Here what I'm trying to tell you is that so far you have argued that anti-defection law has done so many negative things to individual MPs. Now you are supposed to balance your answer by talking about how there are several other reasons. There are several other reasons in addition to anti-defection law as the reasons why there is a decrease in constructive debates in the parliament. Like for example, there is increasing criminalization in the politics. Now that has got nothing to do with anti-defection law. But if there is increasing criminal element in the politics, if there is increasing element of illiterate politicians in the politics, let's say if that is the case, there is going to definitely be a decrease and decline. There is going to be a decrease and decline in the constructive debates in the parliament, right? So that is one reason. The second reason is, as time has passed, if you see the way in which the opposition works, the opposition has become quite obstructionist, especially during the coalition politics. अब देखो मोदी आ गया है, he really doesn't let anybody speak, so we will set that aside. But in general, the politics of obstructionism by the opposition party is making things really difficult for individual parliamentarians. That is another reason. Okay, so like this, if you go on and on, there are several other reasons why the individual parliamentarians are not able to conduct healthy, constructive debates in the parliament. So that is a good side heading that you could have. This is my second side heading. So I started out with a small hub and spoke diagram to talk about the criteria of disqualification, and then I moved forward and talked about the how anti-defection law is playing a certain role in decreasing the quality of debates in the parliament. That is my next side heading. And then moving forward, I'm talking about how there are several other reasons why there is a decline in debates in the parliament. So these are the nice side headings that I can set up, and towards the end I definitely have to talk about the way in which I want to make improvements in anti-defection law, because you've pointed out certain flaws in anti-defection law, so you definitely have to talk about some solutions. Don't point out a problem if you don't want to talk about a solution. ठीक है, अब देखो ये जर्नलिज्म नहीं है, दिस इज़ नॉट मीडिया, दिस इज़ अ मेंस आंसर राइटिंग सेशन. यू आर सपोज टू टॉक अबाउट प्रॉब्लम्स and solutions. If you don't know the solutions, you are supposed to learn the solutions or generate solutions by using your knowledge and thought process, right? So with that set of introduction, body and conclusion in our hand, we will move forward and look at the sample answer, and we will see how this answer can be enriched, if it can be enriched. And then I encourage all of you all to participate in the comment section, okay, so that I know what your thought process is, and whatever mental blocks you have or face while writing an answer, if you can put them down in the comment section, I'll make sure to address them. Okay, so let's move forward and look at the sample answer. So here's the sample answer. Let me just zoom it out for you all. So the anti-defection law was passed under the 52nd constitutional amendment of the constitution. It added the 10th schedule, and its main intent was to prevent political horse trading. So this is a succinct and a crisp way of starting your answer, but it is a very good way of starting your answer because it is full of facts and it is full of the concept of political horse trading, which is also a keyword in this particular case, right? So he has also talked about certain other facts, the criteria for defection. अब इतना कहाँ से याद होता है? Now you have to remember these things because these are something that you have learned for your prelims. Where if you're writing mains, you must most certainly have cleared prelims, right? And that means the prelims knowledge which you have is somewhere dormant in your mind. So you have to revise and brush up these things. Make sure you know these facts, and these facts have to go into your mains answer. That is how you enrich your answer. Otherwise, like I said, there are two parts to every answer: the content part, as in the view and the opinion part, and the solid hard facts part. And these hard facts part can never be ignored, and that is what has been properly addressed here. He is talking about criteria for defection: voluntarily giving up membership. If an independent person joins political party, if he votes against the command of the party, or if he votes against the command of the whip, even that is fine. Next, moving forward, if a nominated member joins the party after 6 months of becoming an MP or an MLA. So he's talking about the criteria of defection, and not only that, he's also talked about certain exceptions. There is an exception for merger, there is an exception for speaker. Okay, so we know these prelims facts. So if I want you to think about these things, if you have solved some prelims test series, which I'm sure you must have by now, you definitely have seen each of these criteria as the options in your prelims question paper, right? So it's not difficult to recall them per se. You are supposed to have the thought that yes, these are the points that I could be writing in this answer. It's mostly about how you can link every knowledge that you have, every single fact that you have, and make it relevant for the answer. If it is definitely not relevant for the answer, you cannot write it. Like for example, I probably not know something about what Buddha said. Buddha said, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Can I write it here? No. right? Buddha also said Appo Deepo Bhava, which means be a light unto yourself. It is a beautiful point, but I can't write it here because it is not relevant. You are supposed to see if things are relevant, and once you think they are relevant, definitely write them. And if you don't think they are relevant, so most certainly don't write them. Just don't dump everything you know. Dump everything you know that is relevant for the answer. Now let's move forward. Role of the law in causing a decline in healthy debates. Now he's addressing what the question is trying to tell us. See how he's mimicking the nature of the question. Probably next he moves forward and talks about the other reasons why there is a decline in healthy debates in the parliament. So the first point is the members now are forced to toe the party line instead of expressing his thoughts. That is true because there is always a fear of defection. If I don't as much as follow the command of the whip. अब देखो आज whip ने बोला go and vote in support of our party in a particular decision and I am absent, then I am technically liable for defection because I have not participated, I have not followed the command of the whip. I am just giving you a loose scenario, but if you don't follow the command of the whip, you definitely become liable to defection. If the situation is so difficult, where will my individual freedom of expression work? How can I speak my mind if I am totally constrained by the anti-defection law? Let's say, for example, I have some independent thoughts about something. I represent a particular constituency and there are some thoughts I have to represent on behalf of my people. Now, if these thoughts are in conflict with the party mandate, what am I supposed to do? Right? On one hand, I am supposed to represent the people. On one hand, I am a party man. But because of anti-defection law, I definitely cannot talk about what my people want. So that is a problem with anti-defection law. Second point is fear of defection in the minds of legislators has decreased intra-party democracy and it has increased centralization. Naturally, when there is a law, when there is a fear of defection, when there is a fear that you will get defected when you don't follow the mandate of your party, then there is a centralization. This also leads to the problem of dynastic politics, and that is why people and experts have time and again pointed out how anti-defection law has actually perpetrated dynastic politics. Alright, now moving forward, whips issue orders on non-serious issues and make the individual MPs support them. Now the situation is, if you look at the case study or the scenario of British or other countries, other important countries and their constitutions, you will see the following. Whip is issued only on certain topics, on certain issues. Like for example, if there is a problem that the stability of the government is questioned, there is a no confidence motion. In such a situation, the whip can be issued and you can bring all the legislators you have in support of your government. But if the whip is issued on a very trivial topic or a very frivolous topic and you are just issuing whip because you can, then that is a problem. You are basically constraining the freedom of speech of your legislator. That is what he's trying to say. It has increased dynastic politics and so on. So far he's talked about how the law has led to a decline in healthy debates. This is satisfactory. Let's move forward. So now he's talking about other reasons for decline in constructive debates in the parliament. So he's saying, look, anti-defection law has certainly played its part in relation to decline in the constructive debates in the parliament. But there's several other reasons also. You can't just blame only anti-defection law. Okay, so there are several other reasons. Firstly, there is chronic absenteeism of legislators. Once they become legislators, they spend most of their time in their constituency or they don't go to the parliament and so on. They actually take leave and this is not good. And the second thing is, because that is possible, because what is the quorum of the house? Very less, right? So a lot of people actually have the scope to be absent in the parliament. This is not like a school in which you are forced to go. You have the option to opt out because the quorum is very less, and parliamentarians actually do it, and that does not bode well for constructive debates. Now the second problem is there is a mix-up of regional, local and national issues, and people don't know what to debate about. Okay, so there is a conflict between these issues. Next is the increasing criminalization of politics. This we have talked about in some measure. We have said how the criminal content, if it increases in the politics, there is a natural decline in the quality of debates in the parliament. Next is the obstructionist attitude of the opposition parties. Next is poor research support to the legislators to argue constructively in the House, and then frequent adjournments for political reasons. The last 2 points are fairly nice points, especially the last points. Because of political reasons, you adjourn the House whenever you want. You kind of force the speaker indirectly, the ruling party does it, and makes the house adjourned from time to time so as to prevent healthy debates from happening. Okay, especially when there is a particular policy that has to be passed on which the opposition is against, on which the opposition is not happy and wants a continuous debate. In this situation, if you frequently adjourn, the opposition will be frustrated and finally gives in to the situation. That is what the thought process is. Now let's move forward. The anti-defection law had the primary intent of preventing corruption and instability within parties. Like for example, the reason why we came up with this is, see, if you look into the history of it, it came up in 1985 because in Rajiv Gandhi's time, what he realized was these legislators or MPs or MLAs used to shift from one party to another party like anything. In fact, there are legislators who have shifted 3 parties on a single day, on a single night, right? To prevent such a situation from happening, in order to increase the stability of the parties, the stability of the government as such, the anti-defection law has been passed. With such noble intent, it has been passed. But it had certain grave loopholes, like we have seen. On one hand, it is decreasing the individual freedom of the MPs, because that is not constitutional at all if you think about it in a manner of speaking. Article 105 says what? Article 105 says that the MPs and MLAs have extra freedom of speech as and when compared to the normal freedom of speech exercised by people of this country, given by Article 19. So Article 105 gives wider powers. Even though these wider powers are given, they don't make much sense because the anti-defection law doesn't let them speak anything against their government, anything against the ruling party, right? They can speak in support of ruling party, they can exercise their freedom of speech and speak whatever they want. But if they are against their own government, as in their ruling party is formed by a set of legislators, right? Their party people. Now these party legislators can support the government like anything, but they cannot repudiate whatever the government has done, because that might invite the situation of defection. And the next problem is, who decides on defection? This defection is decided by the Speaker of the House, and that is not a good sign. What if the Speaker is a member of the ruling party? We can all say that the Speaker is an unbiased person and so on, but there is some backhanded incentive probably, and this is not good for the democratic ethos of the parliament or the legislature as such. So instead of having this power bestowed upon the speaker, you can actually have it transferred to an independent body like an election commission. That is what he actually talks about here. So he says it, however, had a negative impact on the system, and it can be corrected by giving the decision of deciding on defection to an independent election commission instead of speaker. And also what you could do is restricting the applicability of anti-defection law to only certain cases, probably to confidence motions, probably to certain important bills which are really important for the stability of the government, which are really important for the people of the country. In such situations, you probably can issue whip, but otherwise you need to give some amount of free hand to the legislators, because they are not small kids, right? You can prevent them from moving from one party to another party, but don't issue whip too often to curtail their freedom of speech. That is what you have to reform in anti-defection law, as pointed out by several committees, several experts, and several newspaper articles if you see. So now these will course correct the law and help it realize the original objective and intent. But there is one small problem here. towards the end, the conclusion is just a 2-line conclusion. This is not really a conclusion. You probably write 3 lines. 2 to 3 lines would be better. They should look a bit more dense. Okay, the one key idea which I taught in the first Kalam season was to actually bring the last point into your conclusion so that your conclusion looks dense. See if that is applicable in this particular question, and try to put that conclusion in the comment section and let me see how that works out. Now let's look at tomorrow's question. Okay, tomorrow we have an interesting question on judiciary, and it is related to basic structure doctrine. So the basic structure doctrine. But before we discuss about this, there are some triggers that you need to have whenever there is a question. So if this question is about basic structure, I immediately have certain points in my mind. Keshwanand Bharti case 1973, Minerva Mills case which came after Keshwanand Bharti case, Golaknath case which basically was a precursor to Keshwanand Bharti case. जब आपका प्रिपरेशन इतना तगड़ा होगा, जब आपका प्रिपरेशन इतना सॉलिड होगा, तभी आप अच्छा आंसर लिख पाएंगे, and that is only possible through lots of revision and lots of practice. Don't worry if you're not able to write an answer today. Don't worry if you're not able to write a good answer today. Doesn't matter. But you keep practicing, and after 30 days, you definitely will improve. Okay, it is all about those small incremental improvements you make. So this question says, you starting from the inventing of the basic structure doctrine, the judiciary has played a highly proactive role in ensuring that India develops into a thriving democracy. So in the light of the statement, the thesis statement that has been given, you're supposed to evaluate the role played by judicial activism in achieving the ideals of democracy. Okay, so think about this question, sleep on it, evolve the side headings. We will see what the answer could be tomorrow.